Well, our grant funding right now currently is through the Risk Management Agency, which is part of USDA, and how we've kind of applied that to a lot of the multicultural farmers that we work with is in four main ways. The first one is to increase our soil organic matter. So while we're standing here at this Michigan State University Student Organic Farm, we don't necessarily say that everything we do is only for organic production. So things like increasing organic matter are good for your soil, good for your plants, whether you're organic, whether you're conventional, or whether you're anywhere in between that. That's just good agricultural practices. The second thing we talk about is crop diversity. So while we're standing here in just a tunnel of tomatoes right now, in other tunnels and other spaces around the farm, we've got between 60 and 70 different crops growing. So what we try to do is say, well, if we think about it and we're only growing tomatoes, especially this year we're having some issues with late blight in tomatoes around the Northeast and now starting in Michigan on both potatoes and tomatoes. So what happens is if we get either a disease infestation or infection or an insect infestation and we lose a crop, if we're only growing one or two crops, that could be a huge detriment to the farm. We may have little to no income. But if we're growing all these diversity of crops, chances are we're not going to have failures in more than a few, if any. Hopefully none, but if any, only a few. And that might leave us, in this case, 55 or 56, 57 different other crops that we can market. Even if we're only growing 12 or 15 crops, we still have, if two fail, we still have 10 or more crops. And the third is direct market. So a lot of the growers that we work with are small to mid-size, and they aren't growing enough of any single crop to be able to, say, sell it at a wholesale or a large wholesale or a terminal market or anything like that. They're looking to be able to have a good return, see as much of that dollar as possible from the sale of that product. So what we try to do is encourage direct marketing, and that comes in a variety of different ways. That comes in on-farm stands, which some of the growers we have that we work with have. It comes in the terms of farmers markets, which most of the growers that we work with are at least selling at one farmers market, if not more. CSAs are another one that a lot of the growers that we're working with are really interested in. And some of them do have wholesale accounts, but they're not taking terminal prices, terminal market prices. They're more looking at selling to specialty restaurants, maybe small health food stores, food co-ops, those types of groceries where they're still seeing a large return for their product. Fourth one, which we really talk about here in the north, especially in Michigan and in the upper Midwest, is season extension. So if we think about what usually happens in Michigan, right, we've got maybe a 5-month growing period, maybe, depending. This year it's been really cold, so when we're usually harvesting tomatoes outside this time of the year, this year we're definitely not doing that yet. So what we really try to do is promote season extension in a multiple or varieties of ways. So the biggest and kind of the rock star of it all is the hoop house. You can grow in Michigan year-round without any supplemental heat or light. We're standing in one now. You can see the tomatoes that we aren't harvesting out of the field yet, we've been harvesting out of here for 7 or 8 weeks already. So we're way far ahead, and on a normal year of weather, we're still 3 to 5 weeks ahead of what we get out of the field.
The Michigan State Student Organic Farm has been hugely inspiring to people in Detroit, I think. Their technical expertise has been invaluable. And I think the ability to take folks from the city up to the Student Organic Farm and show them the possibilities, I think really opens up people's eyes as to what could be done with really simple technology like hoop houses. And Adam has been hugely generous with his time and extremely supportive. I mean, almost any time I have a question regarding hoop houses, I can call him up and I'll usually get a call back in the next day or two, and he's willing to spend a good amount of time really working through some ideas that I have, and came down and helped us resheathe the plastic on, because I had never done one. I've resheathed plastic on hoop houses many times, but never one that had a ridge vent on it. And he came down and we kind of scratched our heads together and spent a whole day with me, and it was Adam's just been a really, really great asset to our community. So, and come down and taught several classes and done a really good job of some teachers come in and they teach the same class to every single audience, but Adam will really take the time to find out what the needs of that community are and try and address those appropriately, so that he's actually teaching a class that will be helpful. So
we've got season extension in terms of hoop houses. We also do some things with working with row cover or low tunnels or other types of season extension to encourage people to be able to harvest earlier in the season and also later into the fall. By doing that, they tend to have customers that come to them early. They tend to have some products, especially things like tomatoes and peppers, summer squash, those types of crops that people are really looking for that really signal summer in Michigan. They tend to have them much earlier, usually in late June or early July, as opposed to where we're at here outside of Lansing, Michigan, be first week of August. So we really get to have that early production, higher value for the direct to the market or direct to the consumer, higher dollar return to the producer, and hopefully a lot of those consumers then stay with the producer throughout the season because they started buying with them earlier. So those are kind of our four main things that we talk about with in terms of risk management for agricultural production.